Hi, I'm Donna. Welcome to lesson 8 of my introduction to yoga. And congratulations if you've made it to this class and you're enjoying the practice. A little bit the same as last week, but we're going to start to look at being upside down. And it's important that you know that's okay for you. If you have high blood pressure, you need to check with your doctor before you do the upside down postures. We're only going to do them in tiny little ways today, so we're going to break it down. And we're going to begin by laying down and using a couple of blankets. It'll also be useful to have a chair and a strap. So grab your equipment and we'll get started. This week, when you lay down, you're going to have your long blankets, so long and narrow, and one for your head. Now this one's for your spine. Last week we supported the whole spine, or last lesson I should say. Maybe you're practicing every day. But I want you to put this edge under your thoracic spine or between your shoulder blades. For bra wearing people, it's about where your bra strap is. Okay, and then that one's going to be for your head, so a little bit different. So you can see where I'm putting the edge of the blanket. Just making sure your neck and your head are supported, but your shoulders are relaxed, and we'll bring the soles of the feet together. The knees out wide. So remember, if this is a little too tough on your hips, you can support under your legs, or you could take that posture with your feet on the floor and your legs parallel. But otherwise, you find a spot around the middle of the shoulder blades that just feels like it really needs that gentle pressure from the blanket. We'll try to keep the shoulder blades as close to the back waist as you can. Turning the palms up, letting the chest be wide. Just checking in with whether you feel symmetrical, so even weight both sides of your sacrum, even pressure on the outside edges of your feet. And finding the length of your breath. The feeling of the rise and fall of your belly and your chest. The feeling of letting go as you exhale. The feeling of potential with the inhalation. Just acknowledging how you feel, just as that is. Letting yourself sink a little more deeply into the support. And with that support behind your heart, just take notice of the space around your heart, around your breastbone, the shape your lungs make when you breathe in fully. The shape that remains of the open front ribs when you breathe out. And then gently bringing your knees together and rolling over to your right side. We're going to kneel down towards the back of the mat. Sit your bottom back as close to your heels as your knees allow, and reach your torso and your arms forward, forward Virasana. Breathe deeply again. Find that spacious feeling around your heart. Let your armpits lengthen, your arms lengthen. Feel that you're wide and square across the collarbones. That your spine is reaching as far as you can from the anchor of the pelvis. That your neck is relaxed. And then gently coming up into all fours. Just walk the knees together so they're hip width and your lower legs are parallel. Your wrists underneath your shoulders or a little bit forward if your wrists are a little stiff. Just making little circles around your wrists. Just notice if one elbow wants to face a different direction to the other. So we'll face them towards each other or face them 45 degrees. Try to keep them even. Other direction for your wrists. Press the fingerprints, the base of your index fingers. And breathing. Good. And then you're going to walk your hands all the way to the front of the mat and bring your forearms down onto the floor. See how your shoulders feel. And if you've had an injury with your shoulder, rotator cuff injury, you might have to have your elbows out a little bit wider. Otherwise, you're going to try and have your forearms parallel to each other or parallel to the edges of the mat. We're going to stretch out through the fingers, press down the inside edge of the wrists again, the base of the index fingers. And then we're going to just gently let the chest move towards the floor or to the front of the legs. Maybe your forehead reaches gently to the floor. Otherwise, keep the back of the neck long. That space between the shoulder blades where you began your practice with the blanket, we want to let that part of the body broaden. And as if you could move it forward so that the front chest opens wider. Keep allowing the armpits to lengthen, the chest to broaden, the neck to relax. And then from that place between your shoulder blades, you're gently going to lift your head up and look forward. So we don't want to squash the back of the neck, just lifting the head a little. Good. And then putting your neck where it's comfortable, you're going to ease your shoulders forward. See if you can bring both elbows off the floor evenly. Good. And then walk your hands back. And take a moment to rest into child's pose. Just observing the sensation in your body, in your arms, your shoulders, where else it might be. And there's no need to be holding tension. So when you find it, let it go. Good. And then we're going to walk the hands forward again. Forward Virasana. Come up onto all fours for your cat stretch. So knees under the hips or just a little back from the line of the hips. Even elbows, press the fingerprints. Arch your spine up, arch your spine down. Couple more times. Good. And this time walking the hands to the front of the mat. We're going to keep the elbows off the floor, but bring the chest again towards the front of the legs. So you can see my knees are just underneath the hips. So we bring the chest towards the floor or the front of the legs. We keep the collarbones wide, the armpits long. But again, let that space between the shoulder blades be wide and sink towards the front torso, and the front torso widens. Keep the neck long, back of the neck, sides of the neck. Good, and then gently lifting up and walk your hands back. We're going to just kneel back for a moment. I'm going to interlock the fingers, and when you do that, you're going to bring the palms, the heels of the hands close together so that you've got a nice straight line on the outside of the wrists. Okay, so not out like that. Good. And then you're going to put your elbows down onto the floor under your shoulders. And you can even tuck your little finger underneath. This is a exploring preparation for headstand. So we want to make sure our neck is going to be okay. You don't want to put pressure on your head and your neck if your neck is not ready to do that. So what we're going to do is play around with the elbows on the floor. We're going to press the wrists into the floor, press the forearms into the floor. Good. And walk your knees forward to where you can comfortably just hang your head down towards your wrists. Okay, so my head is not on my wrist. It's different depending on how long your arm bones are, your neck, for each person. Okay, so just see if you can just let your head hang down. But we're going to keep pressing the wrists, keep pressing the forearms. Good. Now, if you feel confident here, you haven't got your head resting, you haven't got your neck resting on your hands, you can try tucking your toes under and just lifting your knees off the floor a little. Good, so we're really working hard in the forearms, the wrists, and then you might be able to lift your knees up. Good, and then we're going to walk move the chest towards the front of the legs, press the heels, and your head just hangs down. It's not pressing onto the floor, but really work your upper arms strongly. Breathe deeply. Just make sure your neck is free so you can nod your head. Good, and then we're going to lower down, knees to the floor. Release your hands, take them back beside you. Well done. And child's pose. Let your shoulders be nice and wide. Good, and we're going to reach the arms all the way forward, forward virasana. Good, coming up onto your knees. So bring your legs parallel, your knees under your, or hip width. Okay, stretch out your fingers, press your fingerprints, press the base of the index fingers. Good, elbow creases evenly facing. Tuck the toes under and lift your knees away from the floor for Ardha Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. You can have your knees bend if your legs feel tight, but just keep focusing on that upper part of your spine. So we want to try and bring that space between the shoulder blades to the front chest, and the front chest widens. The collarbones are wide and square. Neck is long. You might nod your head. Relax your neck. You're pressing your heels, lifting your kneecaps, lifting your sit bones. Breathing deeply. Good, and then we're going to bring the shoulders forward into plank position. And remember, if that's too strong, just gently take your knees to the floor. Okay, so you're trying to hold a nice straight line from your knees to the top of the head. So if you can hold with your knees off the floor, just give yourself enough room so it's not too strong in your wrists. Okay, elbows even. We're going to lengthen the lower back by tucking the tailbone forward. Draw the lower abdomen up strongly to support the lower back. Good. And then Ardha Mukha Svanasana. So lift the hips high. Stretch the front chest towards the front of the legs. Let the head nod so your neck is long. Breathe deeply. Good. And we're going to do that cycle 2 more times. But anytime you need to come down and rest into child's pose, listen to your body. All right, so plank position. You can modify that by gently bringing your knees to the floor. Lengthen your lower back, so draw the tailbone forward. Lift the lower abdomen. Keep breathing. Stretch back through your heels. Lift up the space between the shoulder blades. Keep the back of the neck long. Breathe deeply. Then we're going to lift the hips. So you're bending at your hips now. Lift them high. Press your heels. Downward facing dog pose. Let that space between the shoulder blades reach forward. Let the chest widen. Let the neck lengthen. Breathe deeply. Last one. Remember, you can rest instead of doing this last cycle. We're going to bring the shoulders over the wrists. Lengthen your lower back. Draw the tailbone forward. Squeeze the lower abdomen to support the spine. Elbows are even. Press back through your heels. Lift up between your shoulder blades. Breathe deeply. Good. Lift the hips high. Ardha Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. Nod your head. Check that your neck is relaxed. Nice work. And then we're going to bring both knees to the floor. Walk your hands back beside you. Child's pose. Be curious. About the depth of the breath. Where there may be tension in your body. Letting go of what is unnecessary. Good. Reach your arms all the way forward. Come up into downward facing dog pose again. We're going to take plank pose again. You can bring your knees gently to the floor. You can give yourself a little bit more room by walking the hands forward. We'll lengthen the lower back. We're going to try and lower down without touching the floor with the front body. So bend the elbows, keep them even. Bring the breastbone forward and then lay down. Good. And then we're going to keep the hips on the floor, but lift the belly, lift the breastbone off the floor, keep the elbows in by the sides of the body. Legs are parallel, they reach right back, press down the tops of the feet, lift the kneecaps. Good. And then you're going to sweep the arms back behind you, palms up. Take the legs off the floor. Squeeze the shoulder blades back towards the back waist. Lift the breastbone, lift the palms. Good. And then laying down, turn your face to one side and letting go. Then face onto your forehead again. We're going to lift the belly, or the breastbone, I should say, the ribs off the floor, maybe the belly. You're going to lift your palms up so arms are parallel back beside you. Lift your legs off the floor. Good. Draw the shoulder blades back. Reach the space between the shoulder blades forward as you lift and widen the breastbone, making space around the heart. Lift your legs And then lowering down and turning your face to the opposite side and resting, letting go. Letting go. Good, and then hands underneath your shoulders. You're going to press yourself up all the way back into forward virasana. So kneeling at the back of the mat, knees wide. Reach your torso and your arms forward. Your pelvis as close to your feet as your knees allow. Feel the broadness of your chest, your upper back, the length of your neck. Good, and then inhale and walking your hands back and come up. And I'm going to use a blanket under my knees because we're going to kneel up for a moment so that you can step your right foot forward. And what you want is a big enough distance from your front foot back to your knee so that you feel like you're getting a stretch in the front of hip. And when you lean your hips forward, we don't want to twist the hips and twist the spine. So we're trying to keep the hips level, both sides of the lower back even in length. Bring your hands onto your knee. Good. We'll try and get the left foot to go straight back rather than turning in. Good. Just letting the hips reach forward, but also keep lifting the front of the hips, lifting the belly, lifting the breastbone. And the neck is relaxed, and the face is relaxed. Breathe deeply. Great. Now, you can stay here working on the stretch, or you can try for something a little bit stronger. It takes a bit of balance. So I encourage you to just put your hands down onto the floor for a moment. You tuck your back toes under. We reach the hips forward again, and then see how you go lifting that back knee off the floor. So if that's too strong, of course, keep your knee on the floor. Good. And we're going to lift the belly again, lift the breastbone. Really stretch back through that straight leg if that's where you're going. And then we're going to take the arms up and look up. Draw the shoulder blades down. Holding your balance, holding your focus, breathing, reaching. Good, and then release. We're going to release that knee onto the floor. Good, and then swapping sides. So big enough distance. Begin to let the hips ease forward. So we want to feel that it's a really good, nourishing stretch in the front of the right hip, but that the hips aren't sitting unevenly, so the lower back should feel even both sides. We keep the hips square to the floor. Lift the belly, lift the breastbone. Draw the shoulder blades down. Letting the hips ease forward. Good, and then deciding whether you're going to work here, keeping your knee onto the floor. If you want to try taking your knee off the floor, you might be able to do it without using your hands. But if you need to use your hands, just leaning down. Tuck your toes under so you have your balance. Straighten your back leg, nice and strong. And then we're going to lift up. And then reaching the arms up by the ears. Lift the breastbone. Draw the shoulder blades down. Broaden across the front foot. Lengthen out through the toes. Straighten the back leg. Keep breathing. Not squashing the neck. Keep it long. Good. And then hands together. And we're going to release. So hands to the floor, releasing your knee. Taking both knees back. You might not need your blanket. I'm going to rest into child's pose. Taking stock of the depth of the breath,
of where you can find ease in your body. Good. And then inhale
and come up. We're going to take a laying down posture again. And this time I want a really nice thick roll underneath the shoulder blades. So I'm going to make my blanket a roll, and you might have thicker blankets than me. You might be different height, proportion to me, but just something that feels really nice and solid, yet has a soft edge. And then we need a head support again. So something like that. The proportion we're trying to get is the head's going to be laying here, that space between the shoulder blades here, and we want the head higher than the heart when you lay down. So I find the edge of the blanket between the shoulder blades so I can feel the ribs broaden. Then the head support is just to support my neck and my head so that I don't find myself laying back like this and squashing the back of the neck. So just make sure it feels like your equipment's really supporting the length of your neck, the openness of your chest. Good. And we're going to take the legs out straight this time. Just the minimum effort that you can to hold your legs straight, inside edges touching, feet facing up to the ceiling. But then let your lower back relax. Bringing your focus to that space behind your heart. And then indeed to the space around your heart. We're going to reach the arms overhead, and you can hold your wrists, your forearms, or maybe even your elbows. Reach the elbows back towards the wall behind without squashing your throat. And awareness again in the rib cage where the support is behind you, space around your heart. Feel the deep breath there. Swap the cross of the forearms for other forearm on top. Reach your elbows back again. Good. And then release and bend in your legs. Release your arms and roll over to your right side. And we're going to use the chair now. So just set that up at the end of your mat and have your strap handy. Take the strap around the front legs of the chair and lay it down where you can reach it. If you don't have a strap but you've got a mat and a chair, you can approximate this just using the edges of the mat. I'll show you. So we're going to lay down. Close enough to the chair so you can put your feet on the edge of the chair and you can hold your strap. And we're going to begin exploring shoulder stand, so it's another upside down pose. And the way we're going to do that is just thinking about the arms staying parallel to each other. And you've got a little hold on the mat there. We're going to lift the hips off the floor. So you might have your heels on the front of the chair, maybe the balls of the feet. Just make it so it's comfortable enough for you. And as you lift your hips, let the shoulders widen a little. You get to a position where you don't feel like you can lift any more of your spine off the floor. But then we're going to tuck the shoulder blades under a little bit more, so towards your back waist. So you're more onto the top of the shoulder blades. And then we're going to lift the front of the hips a little longer. Press your feet, lengthen your quadriceps, lift your hips, and the sternum starts to move towards the chin. Keep the back of the neck feeling nice and long. And we try to keep the legs parallel, so knees not flying out to the side. And you're breathing deeply. Just notice if you have a white knuckle grip onto the strap, so a little softer in your hands. And it should feel wide at the base of the neck. You're not squashing there, but the arms are long. You're holding the chair as close as you can. Holding the strap as close as you can to the chair. Breathing deeply. Keep using your legs, lifting your kneecap. All my words are wrong today. Lifting your quadriceps. Keep your lower back long. Good. And then we're going to lay down bone by bone. Great. Now, I'm hoping you can reach to put the backs of your legs onto the chair right up to the back of the knees. So wiggle in a little bit closer or pull the chair closer to you so the whole lower leg is supported. Just let your arms out wide, palms up. So your upper back feels really broad. Your neck is relaxed. Taking notice of what sensations arise in your body. The depth of the breath. Good, and then we're going to repeat. So you'll lift higher if your bottom is closer to your chair. So you might want to ease out a little bit or wiggle in a little bit. See how you go. So you might be holding closer to the legs of the chair or even holding the front legs of the chair. Okay, so we bring the feet back onto the front edge of the chair. We're just going to keep the shoulders neutral as you lift. Feel bone by bone of your spine lifting. Good, and then you get to that point where that's as far as it's going to go. And then see if you can walk your shoulder blades towards your back waist a little. So you lift right up onto the top of the shoulder blades, but make sure you keep the back of your neck nice and long. If it feels too strong in your neck, just give yourself a little space and lower down a little. So we've got the arms parallel, but we're really stretching them by holding the strap as close to the chair as we can. Soft grip. Good, then we're going to press the feet. Lengthen the quadriceps, the front of your thighs, lift your hips. Lengthen your lower back, so the tailbone is reaching forward here. Breathing deeply. Legs stay parallel. Good, and then lowering down bone by bone. Press your belly or sink your belly into your lower back as you press the lower back down onto the floor. And then let everything relax. So the whole lower leg supported onto the chair. Let your arms out a little wider, palms up. Middle back is wide. Neck is long, throat relaxed. We're going to do one more. So decide how close you want to be to your chair. I'm going to try holding the legs of the chair this time. So we're going to go with parallel legs and lift up, just keeping your shoulders neutral, so nice and wide. Good, lift as high as your body allows. Your arms are parallel, soft grip on your chair or your strap. Good, and then just walking the shoulder blades, you can do one at a time, towards your lower back, or towards your back waist. So you're on the top of the shoulder blades and the back of the neck is long. It might feel a little squashed in your throat, so you don't have to lift so high that you're uncomfortable, but it will feel strange. And otherwise, we're lifting the sternum. We're going to lengthen the quadriceps, lift the hips, reach the tailbone up, lengthen your lower back, breathe. Space between the shoulder blades stays wide. Nice work. And then lowering down. Resting the entire back of your lower legs onto your seat. Congratulations on your shoulder stand. So you're going to wiggle yourself back a little from your seat. We're going to use it again, so you can just push it away if you don't have enough room, but not too far. Bring the inside edges of your feet together, so your knees are bent and knees are together. And we'll take the arms out to give yourself a little space, or you don't need that strap anymore. We'll lift the hips and swing them left and take the knees to the right. If they don't reach the floor with ease for your back, then put a blanket underneath. We're going to try and keep the left shoulder blade onto the floor, and you're looking over your left shoulder, but then you can close your eyes. Just find where your body is stretching here. You can adjust where you feel this twist in your back by where you place your knees in relation to your shoulders, say. So you might want to take your knees up a little closer to your shoulders. We're going to keep the feet and the knees resting on the floor today. Looking for every opportunity to let go of tension. You might feel nice to give yourself an extra stretch by putting the right hand onto the left knee. To lift the legs, squeeze your belly and your pelvic floor. Come back to center. So inside edges of the feet together, knees together. You're going to lift your hips, swing them right, and knees to the floor on the left. And if they don't reach down onto the floor, you can always put a blanket underneath. We'll try to keep the right shoulder blade onto the floor and your face in that direction, but then you can close your eyes. Just feel where that intensity is in your back or your body, and you can shift it. We'll try to do something similar on both sides, so maybe the knees need to come up a little higher towards the line of the shoulders. And then exploring, just giving yourself to the posture. Letting go of what is unnecessary. And come out of the pose. Squeeze your belly, your pelvic floor. Come back to center. And we're going to do the relaxation today using the chair again. So you already know what you're doing. Have it close enough or wiggle in a little closer so the entire lower legs can be supported and your spine is in a comfortable position. You might like the added benefit of putting a blanket in underneath your hips. Or you might feel like it's really nice just to have your spine flat on the floor. So you can play around with that and see which one you prefer. Really settling that section of your back between your shoulder blades into the floor. So the shoulder blades are wide, but also reaching towards your back waist. So then your neck gets to be long, your throat soft. And you have a little more space around your heart. If you'd like to get really technical here, and you can feel that your knees keep falling apart, you could use your strap that you had earlier. And you can put that around your thighs and that'll keep your legs parallel. So around your thighs towards your knees. Just checking in that your neck feels long, your throat relaxed. Finding the length of your breath. Being curious about each sensation that arises in your body. Curious about the sensation of the breath. And each time you notice tension, letting it go, as if melting away. Sense the life force of the in-breath, the nourishment. Breath by breath. When you're ready to come out of the posture and you might like to stay for a little while longer, you simply take the strap off by bending the knees in if you're using a strap. If you have that blanket, just lift your hips enough to slide that out. Rolling to your right side. And slowly coming up to sitting. Finding the length of your spine. Take the feeling of the practice with you. Namaste.